What's up guys, welcome to my very first video on my channel. Today I'll be going over my ranking of all MCU movies. This will include Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Again, this is my own personal ranking. It's not right whatsoever. It's just based on my personal likeness of each of these movies. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe and comment down below your thoughts and suggestions, as well as your own personal ranking. Let's get right into it. For this video, since I'll be going over 32 movies, I'll be shortening my description of each ranking to about 1 or 2 positive and negatives of each movie. That way we can get through the video a lot quicker. Because let's be honest, who wants to hear me ramble on about each movie? I know you guys just want to see my overall ranking, so we'll get right into it. But I will be posting a more in-depth video of my top 10 favorite MCU movies, as well as my top 10 least favorite MCU movies later on, so you guys can check them out whenever I post those. With that being said, coming in last place at number 32, we have The Eternals. I did not like how many new characters they brought in, because they did not develop them very well and give us much background on each of the characters. But I did enjoy Thena and Gilgamesh's character. I thought their chemistry and their relationship throughout the movie was one of the better parts of the movie. Other than that, I did not like the villains of this movie, whether it's the Celestials or the Deviants and Crow and Icarus. I thought Icarus was the best villain out of the 3, if you consider all 3 villains. I thought his motivation was pretty good. Basically saying that we have a mission, we were created for a reason, we need to carry out our mission from the Eternals, even though it's basically murdering an entire planet just to give birth to a new Celestial. I didn't really enjoy Crow, especially at the end with Thena. I thought that little fight between them was a little weird and inappropriate, so I did not really enjoy that. But overall, I think most people can agree that this is a bottom 5 MCU movie. Maybe some people have it a little bit higher, maybe not, but this is just my personal opinion. With that being said, coming in at number 31, we have Thor: The Dark World. Again, the villains really trashed this movie for me. I thought the Dark Elves were pretty boring. I thought their motivation was not that interesting, basically just saying that the ether, the convergence is their birthright, and bringing all these planets into the darkness. I didn't think that was too complicated, too complex. I thought it was pretty boring. But I did really enjoy Thor and Loki's chemistry, especially when they were escaping Asgard, with the comedy and the banter between them two. I thought that was really funny and enjoyable. I do really wish, this goes for all of the Thor movies, I really wish we got more Heimdall. I think Heimdall is such a cool and interesting character, especially with his power and his ability to see basically anywhere in the universe. I just wish we get more than these 5-10 minute segments in each of these movies. Other than that, I thought this movie was pretty forgettable and pretty boring. Moving on, coming in at number 30, we have Captain Marvel. I think most people either really like Captain Marvel or hate it. I'm one of those who kind of hates this movie. Only good part of this movie, I thought, was Nick Fury. Seeing more of Fury and him younger and kind of starting off in S.H.I.E.L.D., I thought that was kind of the only good part of this movie, as well as seeing the Skrulls, because as we all know, Skrulls are going to play a big part in the upcoming MCU. So it's cool seeing a little bit of their development and background. But overall, I did not like the villains in this. Young Rog and the Kree Intelligence I thought were pretty boring, especially since Young Rog gets defeated by one fist blast in the final fight of the movie. But I did like Captain Marvel and Nick Fury's chemistry on the throughout this movie. And I do think Samuel L. Jackson is a top 5 casting in the MCU. I think he plays Nick Fury extremely well. So it was very enjoyable seeing him continue playing Nick Fury. Moving on, coming in at number 29, we have Iron Man 2. Now, I hate putting an Iron Man movie so low, but Whiplash and Justin Hammer, very, very forgettable villains. They didn't really do too much throughout this movie, especially Whiplash. He didn't really have too much screen time. It was pretty much just the track, and then he was really weird and annoying with his interactions with Justin Hammer, and then the final battle. And with that, we didn't really get a final battle with him and Rhodey and Tony. It was literally lasted like 30 seconds. I thought it would have been a lot better if they played that out a little bit longer. But one thing I do enjoy about this movie is Tony continuing to build these big inventions with his new chess piece. Those are some of my favorite parts of the Iron Man movies, is when he's creating these new big inventions. So it was really cool seeing more of that. And I did like the party fight scene. Thought Tony and Rhodey were really funny during that. So I did enjoy that. But overall, they make Tony kind of a jerk and pretty childish throughout most of this movie. So it kind of makes us not really want to root for him until the very end of the movie. So I just did not really like that. But moving on, coming in at number 28, we have the first Thor. And it's a shame I have to put most of these Thor movies very low on this list because Thor is such a prominent and cool character in the MCU, but he just doesn't get really good movies as he should be. But with this, I do like the introduction of Asgard and seeing it for the first time with all of its beauty and glory and the Shakespearean aspects of it, but it's just a pretty boring movie for me. I think the Frost Giants could have got a little bit more screen time, kind of make them more of a main villain rather than Loki. But I do like Loki as a character, so it was cool seeing a lot of him throughout the movie. But I thought the comedy in this was pretty cringy, so that's something I didn't really enjoy. Moving on, coming in at number 27, we have The Incredible Hulk. Now, I feel like this movie gets overhated on. It is tough with the recasting of Hulk and Bruce Banner, so most people don't really remember that this actually is an MCU movie. But I really enjoyed all the fights with Hulk in it, whether it's at the university or the opening in the factory. I thought that was really cool. It was pretty scary, and we saw Hulk for the first time in the movie, so I enjoyed that. But the Abomination and Hulk fight, I think that may be a top 10 fight in the MCU, so I really did enjoy that. I thought those parts of the movies carried this movie. But overall, the story lacked a little bit. I just can't put it any higher than where it's at. With that being said, coming in at number 26, we have Black Widow. Now, the first half, 2/3 of this movie are really good. I like the generic spy movie. It was really cool seeing more Black Widow. I did like how they gave her own movie after sacrificing everything in Endgame. So it was nice seeing more of her and give her a good send-off with her own movie. But Taskmaster, come on. They completely ruined this villain. In the comics and animated show, he's a very intimidating and powerful villain because he's able to mimic any fighting style and make it his own. So in hand-to-hand combat, he's very difficult to take down. But I did like the opening with Taskmaster on the bridge with Black Widow. I thought that was a good scene. But then you get to the end and it's just Dreykov's daughter, and she's basically a robot with a chip in her neck. I just thought they wasted such a good villain in this movie. But I did like Dreykov a little bit. I thought the power he held over Black Widow was very compelling. And she ended up having to break her own nose just to take him down. So I did like him as a villain in the movie. But Taskmaster definitely brought this movie down on the list. Coming in at number 25, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. Again, another Thor movie, very low on the list. The only reason why I didn't have this lower is because it is enjoyable for me to watch because of the comedy and stuff, but it's just too much comedy. They turn Thor into a very comedic character in the MCU, and I don't really like that, concerning he's a god and he's one of the most powerful MCU characters. But one thing I did really love about this movie was Gore. I thought if they gave him a little bit more screen time and development, I think he could be a top 5 villain in the MCU. He's very scary and intimidating, and Christian Bale plays him very well. Other than that, I thought the gods and the goats were another thing that brought this movie down. The first couple times with the screaming ghosts, it was funny, okay, whatever. But then they bring it back like every 10 minutes or so, and it's just really annoying and unnecessary. And then with the gods, they make them pretty stupid, and they're talking about who's going to be in the next orgy, and I didn't like that. They're supposed to be powerful gods, and especially Zeus, who's like the top of the chain god, and they just make him a big joke. But it is going to be interesting to see what they do with the end credit, because Zeus is basically like, why does everyone think we're a joke now? And with Hercules, so it would be cool to see what they do if they do another Thor movie with the gods. But moving on, coming in at number 24, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, I think most people might disagree with me on this and say it's a little too low, but out of the 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, I thought this was definitely the worst out of them. I think Mysterio is a cool villain. I thought the scenes with him in the illusions were some of the best parts of this movie. But Tony giving this defense system to a high schooler who was dead for the last 5 years, and he only really knows him for about a year, I just think that's very silly and unrealistic. But overall, this movie's solid. It's definitely rewatchable. And it was cool seeing how the world was dealing with the death of Tony Stark, and especially Peter and Happy, seeing how Happy became kind of a father figure to Peter. So I did like that, but overall, it just didn't really do it for me for this movie. But moving on, coming in at number 23, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, a lot of people will probably have this lower, but for me, I just really like Ant-Man and Paul Rudd. He's one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I just like the comedy he brings. And it was cool getting an introduction of Kang, but Kang being defeated by Ant-Man and the Wasp, some lower level heroes, it just doesn't really set him up well in the future for being as scary and intimidating as Thanos. But it was cool seeing the quantum realm, but overall this movie just kind of didn't live up to the hype, because this movie got a lot of hype around it with the introduction of Kang. So it just didn't really live up to that. Moving on, coming in at number 22, we have Iron Man 3. Some people like Iron Man 2 more than Iron Man 3, but for me, it was a solid conclusion to the Iron Man trilogy. And plus, they didn't know if Robert Downey Jr. was coming back as Iron Man, so they kind of made it a closing movie for him. And if that were the case, I think they gave him a great send-off with the final scene with all of his suits and him basically saying, like, I'm done, like, I'm ready to move on and continue my life with Pepper. So I thought that was pretty good. But the fake Mandarin and Aldrich Killian, I didn't really like them as villains. But overall, it's a solid movie. Moving on, coming in at number 21, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I don't know why this movie gets as much hate as it does. I think it's a very enjoyable movie. Seeing all the different multiverses, I thought that was really cool. I loved Wanda as Scarlet Witch. I thought she was such a great villain, and it was pretty scary, and I love how they brought some horror aspects into the movie. And when she takes out the Illuminati, that was brutal, and I thought that was a nice addition to the movie and kind of something new in the MCU, so I like that they did that. But I thought America Chavez was pretty annoying. I didn't really like her character, so we'll see if she gets a little bit more development in the future of the MCU. But coming in at number 20, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron. I think most people agree that this is the worst Avengers movie. I think they wasted such a good villain with Ultron, but the parts with Ultron, I think he was kind of the best parts of the movie. But overall, it's kind of lacks as an Avengers movie. I don't have much to say about it. I can't put it any higher. It's not as rewatchable and not as fun as the other movies on this list. Coming in at number 19, we have the first Doctor Strange. I think the villains, like most of these bottom list movies, kind of lacked for this movie. Dormammu is cool, but Caecilius, he's not really in the movie too much, so it's hard to like him as a villain when he doesn't really do too much. But I did like all the special effects, all the magic, and all this. It was nice seeing that for the first time with Doctor Strange. And I do like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I think he plays a good Doctor Strange. So moving on, coming in at number 18, we have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I know a lot of people like this one more than the first one, but I just can't see anyone else playing Black Panther other than Chadwick Boseman. And unfortunately, that wasn't what was planned. But I did like Namor. And I thought overall the movie, the music, the effects, all that, I thought it was good. But again, I miss Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, and I don't like anyone else playing him. So moving on, coming in at number 17, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think most people think that this is the worst of the Guardians movie. I did have this higher on my list originally, but looking back, I wanted to put some other movies in front of it. I really love the comedy and that all these characters bring to this movie and the other Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So for that, I just think this is definitely higher than any other movie on the list. I just find it very enjoyable to watch, and I love all these characters, but I did think Ego was kind of a mid-villain. He wasn't really in the movie too much, but when he was, I just didn't really like him. He didn't really do too much for me in the movie. And it kind of bounced around between different villains, so it was just very weird. Probably my favorite part in this movie is when Rocket and Yondu, they take like 700 jumps and they're all googly eyed and everything. I thought that was really funny. And then Groot just spits up just a little bit after. I thought that was really funny. But moving on, I have these back to back. I couldn't really tell which one I liked more, but we have at 16 Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then at 15 Ant-Man. I have these back to back because, like I said, both of them I really do enjoy, but I think the first Ant-Man is a little bit better. I like the origin story, but again, I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and I love the comedy that Ant-Man brings to the MCU and the film season, so that's pretty much why I have these movies up here a little bit and back to back. But for the Ant-Man and the Wasp, I thought the villain lacked. I think Ghost wasn't really a villain, but she was kind of annoying throughout most of the movie, so that's why I have that right below Ant-Man. But coming in at number 14, I have Spider-Man Homecoming. I thought Vulture and Michael Keaton, I thought that was a great villain. I think he's an underrated villain in the MCU. But it was nice seeing Tom Holland and RDJ interact more. Iron Man and Pete, I thought they were good throughout this movie. And it was nice seeing that twist with Michael Keaton actually being Liz's dad. I thought that was a good twist, and it came out of left field a little bit. So I liked that car ride. It was very intimidating and scary. It was like, I'll kill you dead. But then to see Pete come over after being crushed by a building, I thought that was cool to see him overcome that. And then after everyone's telling him, like, stay down, stay away from all these big time people, just keep out for the little guy, and him actually succeed and prove everyone wrong, I thought that was very compelling. But coming in at number 13, we have the first Black Panther. When this movie first came out, it was like the movie. I think it was a top 5 MCU movie when it came out. But after rewatching it and all the other movies that came out after it, I think it's good down at number 13. I loved Killmonger as a villain, and Chadwick Boseman played a great Black Panther. It was nice seeing him deal with his dad's death and all this, so I really did enjoy this movie. Coming in at number 12, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, this was a pleasant surprise when this movie came out. I watched the trailer and I saw Shang-Chi and I was like, I don't really know how I feel about this. I don't really know anything about this character. But hey, maybe it'll be like another Black Panther movie. And I thought it was really good. I thought some of the fight choreography was probably some of the best in the MCU, especially with the train scene and when they're out on the side of the building at the fight ring and all that. I thought that was really cool. And I thought the villain was really good in this movie. I liked how his dad was the villain and all he wanted was just see his wife again. But overall, I thought this movie was really good. Coming in at number 11, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, hold up, I know most people are saying this is the best Guardians out there, but I've only seen it once and it just came out, so I can't put it any higher yet. But after rewatching it and throughout a little bit of time, I think this could climb up in the top 5 for me. But I think it was a great conclusion to the Guardians trilogy, and I loved how we got more backstory on Rocket. I thought some of those scenes were very sad and compelling, and I liked how we got some more background on Rocket and not just Star-Lord. But I also thought Nebula was one of the better characters in this movie. I liked how her story has come around from being this evil sister, and she's come around a lot, and I liked how they've developed her character in this movie. And of course, Drax and Mantis, for how dumb they are, it's really funny to watch them. But moving on, coming at the top 10, we have Captain America the First Avenger. Now, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. It was cool seeing Captain America born, and I love the World War II part of it, and the Nazis. I thought that was cool. But I just can't really put it any higher than the other movies on this list. It's a great movie, and I'm not knocking on it at all, but I just can't put it any higher than the rest of the movies on this list. With that being said, coming in at number 9, we have the first Iron Man. Now, some people might say I should have this a little higher, but when you look at the rest of my list, I can't see a way to put this any higher. I thought his origin story was probably the best in the MCU. Kind of kick-started everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I thought the villain, Obadiah Stane, was really good in this movie too. And like I said with the previous Iron Man movies, I love when he's building these big, complex inventions. And when he's building that first suit, the Mark I, in the cave, that was some of the best parts of this movie. With that being said, coming in at number 8, we have Thor Ragnarok. Pause that, I messed up. Coming in at number 8, we have the first Avengers. When it came out, this was, I think, the first Marvel movie I saw in theaters, and it was awesome seeing all these characters come together and fight aliens from space and Loki, and I really enjoyed that. But it is a little cringe at some points, and it's a little bit boring at some points, so I can't put it any higher, but it's the first Avengers movie. It's the first time we're seeing all these characters come together, and you just can't take that away from the movie. Now, coming in at number 7, we have Thor Ragnarok. Finally, we get a good Thor movie, and I think this is so good. It's so entertaining. I love the music in it. I love Sakaar and with Hulk, and Thor getting his hair cut off by Stan Lee. Thought that was really good. There's nothing really wrong with this movie for me. I thought the comedy was just right. Like, they didn't overdo it like they did in Thor Love and Thunder, and they didn't do too less of it. I thought they had the right amount of comedy, and I really enjoyed Hela as a villain, I thought she was very compelling. And then Surtur at the end, destroying all of Asgard. I just think Thor's story is very compelling, and it's one of the best developed throughout the MCU. Just seeing how much he's lost, and then it finally paying off in Endgame when they bring everyone back and all this. So I really did enjoy this movie. Coming in at number 6, we have Captain America: Civil War. Now, this movie, I don't think anyone dislikes this movie. I think they did bring a little too much into this movie, and it kind of got all cluttered up a little bit. But I love Bucky. He's one of my favorite characters in MCU, so I really loved how Steve is torn between his friend Iron Man and Tony, and Bucky, who he's known since he was a little kid, but he went away for a while. So I really enjoyed the butting heads in this, and this fight with Bucky, Iron Man, and Steve. I love that fight. It's probably maybe a top 10 fight for me. It's just a very moving and emotional fight. So I really enjoyed this movie. Coming in at number 5, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Like I said, I'll probably end up moving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 above Guardians 1 eventually, but I didn't know who any of these new characters were. Never heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy before. And then when I saw this movie, I thought it was a really good surprise. I love how they added a lot more comedy in these characters. And it's not as serious as the other Marvel movies. So it was really good seeing that, and I love all their chemistry and how they come together, and they're just this band of misfits who just get together to get out of prison, and then they're become a family, and it just takes off from there. So I really did enjoy that movie. Coming in at number 4, we have Spider-Man: No Way Home. Now, the only thing I don't like about this movie is it sets everything up because Doctor Strange performed a spell for Peter to get into college. And the other movies, you see in like Infinity War and stuff, Doctor Strange would never have done that. So I think it was just weird that he was like, oh, okay, as long as Wong says it's okay, we'll do it. I just thought that was kind of poor way to set everything up. But once you get past that, everything after is just amazing. You see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, which happens to be my favorite. I think Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man out there. And seeing all of them come back and all their villains, and Green Goblin, oh my boy. He's probably my favorite villain in the MCU. He plays it to perfection. And I just really like how everything came into this movie, and it just, the ending. It's a sad ending. Pete forgets everyone forgets he's Spider-Man, and he's just all alone. So I'm excited to see if they are going to do another movie with him. I think they are, and I think they might be bringing Venom into it with that end credit. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. But cracking the top 3, we have Avengers Endgame at number 3. And then at 2, we have Avengers Infinity War. I kind of have to put these back to back. I think Infinity War is just a little bit better with finally seeing the heroes lose. When I went and saw this in theater, I was like, no way. There's no way they lose, because the heroes never lose in these movies. So I really liked that, and I thought seeing more of Thanos was really enjoyable. And I think my favorite part of this movie was their fight on Titan. I thought Iron Man, the Guardians, and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, I thought that was the best part of the movie. I really did enjoy that. And then seeing Loki die, how he was like, oh, I'm a guide I can be your guide to Earth. And then he tries to kill Thanos and do the right thing. So it was nice seeing Loki turn around and become that hero, even though he gets caught and dies. But with Endgame, why I had it below Infinity War is because of that. I just liked how we saw the heroes lose. But Endgame, the last hour of that movie, come on, there's nothing better. Especially with Captain America getting Thor's hammer, kind of that foreshadowing from Avengers, Age of Ultron. He's like, I knew it. I got literal goosebumps. I thought that was the best part of this movie. So I really did enjoy that. And then Tony, how he's always asking Doctor Strange, like, one way, right? We only win this by one way. Like, Doctor Strange's like, if I tell you, it won't happen. And then he holds up his finger, and Tony realizes what he has to do, and he sacrifices everything. And I think that was a great conclusion to Tony and Iron Man. But coming in at number 1, if you guys couldn't have guessed it yet, it is Captain America the Winter Soldier. Now, I know Infinity War and Endgame are definitely more rewatchable and overall just bigger movies, but I have to give it to Captain America Winter Soldier. Like I said, Bucky is probably my favorite character in the MCU, and I really enjoy Steve in that fight in the street and on the bridge, and then he gets his mask off and he's like, Bucky? And seeing how Bucky survived for this long, because I was like, man, I don't know, I was like 12, 13, I don't even remember, but I wasn't old enough to know in all these comics and know that Bucky is actually the Winter Soldier. So it really surprised me. So I really did enjoy that. I thought it was a great spy movie. And Falcon being introduced, I thought that was good. And I like seeing Steve and Black Widow work together more, and I thought that was really good. So that's the conclusion to my list. Like I said, leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think of my list, and make your own list, and let me know in the comments section. But thanks for watching my video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it.